This is episode 8 of our ongoing series on Bikvas Hayira from Rabbi Kaplan, and we're doing part 2 of Shtaim Achas, which is his mimer about war and warfare and Judaism. And we're at the page Lamed Daled. And as I mentioned in the first part, there is a PDF at ashtas.org/RAEK/2shehein1 to SHEHEIN1.pdf. And I have to say before we do today's Rabbi Avrohom that this, I'm not sure I'm going to finish the mimer today, but this part of the mimer is so extremely relevant today, when we have in the war in Gaza manifest clearly the same issues of where Rachmanos ends and where cruelty begins, what are the correlations between humanitarian perspectives and the perspectives of victory. How to define our enemies and how to relate to them. All these things are so extraordinarily relevant, perhaps much more relevant today than they were at the time when Avrohom wrote this sometime in the 1920s or whatever. Because then it was still highly theoretical. Now it's much more practical. The issues are not abstract issues, they are real issues. So what he writes here is extremely, extremely, extremely contemporary and extremely, extremely, extremely important. Whether, again, because it's 100 years later and it's things which were written at the time in the abstract and now are practical, makes a difference in how we perceive his perspective. That's something else, and that's something we'll have to figure out as we go along. Okay, so Ad Kan Divrei Rav. The Rav we mentioned last week, who again we did not identify, says that Dafka Shmuel, who was the greatest, who would have been, from our perspective, the greatest pacifist. He was one who killed Agog. I should say Shmuel Agog Ifnei Hashem Gilgal. But Avrohom is not satisfied with that idea. But now a complaint raises up. It shouts and says, that's the case. So there is no end. In other words, the vigilante justice would seem to be justified. Called Baal Ba'amo, any master in a nation, doesn't mean here a husband, it means a master. Anybody who has mastery, who has authority, each every nation, Yakir Satzmo will recognize himself as required to skewer his agogim before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Go back further in history. Every Pinchas can say, okay, this is my Zimri. And there's no justice and no judge who's going to save me from my dealing with my personal agogim. A person will assume he's exempt from human judgment because he's doing things for the sake of heaven. Raise a pella, but see, this is astonishing. Dafka also see that nation many from which this dangerous Torah came to begin with. Torah's Aver L'Shem Mitzvah, the Torah which is which allows and encourages and Aver for the purpose of the mitzvah. And Aver Lishma, killing L'Shem Shamayim. Torah's Terror Am Shalem, terror, the Torah of terror on an entire nation. Of course, referring to Torah's Mechia L'Shem Tchia, Torah of erasure for the purpose of resurrection. Mechias Amalek L'Shem Tchias Yisrael, erasing Amalek for the resurrection or the growth, the life force of the Jewish people. Dafka also Am HaMesukan, specifically that dangerous nation, Yotza misukan. So playing words, obviously. Misukan with a samech, mitukan with a tough, right? And Ashkenazis is the same word. Misukan, right? The dangerous nation came out fixed. The Masim Tovim, with good deeds. Bechetz Rachamim, with kindness and with mercy. Mishpat Tzaka with justice and with charity. Umishasfein Hashim Hashem Shemaim lo parv lo rabo klal. And at least there's a Rav Eliyahu, people who were skewered other people, Hashem Shemaim, did not become prevalent. I will also most but those fixed nations, the those unblemished lambs, which went down and dunked themselves in holy water. Accept upon themselves and on their children mitzvah avos olam, a great mitzvah of eternal love, and to love one's enemies like one's friends, which is, of course, from the, I believe it's the Sermon on the Mount in the New Testament. Re'im ketovim, to love the bad people the same as good people. What happened to them? What happened with them? What happened to them? How they fall from the heaven to earth. From the heights of love to the depths of murder. After speaking a great deal about absolute love, after being involved to a great extent in diminishing, curtailing one's spirit, somos by fasting, sigufim, the word torture, I forget the exact word, visum sh'ava, and sufferings of love, which of course amongst the hermits and Christian warriors undertook. After all these holy acts, how did there arise me among them, dor achar dor, generation after generation, Rabbi, many, not a few, who distort their pathways from the roads of their commandment. And they skewer people thus on account of religion. Tufta. It's an answer, a question which has no answer. There is evil in the world which has no way to fix other than erasure. Who like us, even before the Holocaust, knows the taste of this terrible evil. Who remembers among us, who is there compare us to remember against our will? Because Torah says you cannot to forget. As Asher Solanu, that which evil did to us. So Choris Asher Solacha. Kim Yerfidim at Shushan, because from Refidim to Shushan. And from Shushan at Tzarfas, and Shushan to France. Tzarfas at Tzvar from France to Spain. Tzvar at Ukraine, and from Spain to Ukraine. ... Because that's as far as I earlier got. Parsha Zohar Aruka, a long Parsha Zohar. Asher Techrad Nefesh Neshama, which a person's soul should tremble to hear. Achlo, but no, Lo Techrad Od. It will not tremble anymore. Ki Nis Char Shah, because it became muted or deaf, I should say. Zoi Parsha Zohar Zera Rucho Shamolek Sheino Kolem Elov, saying people are become deaf to the knowledge that there's evil in the world, and this refers to Parsha Zohar on the Zer Rucho, the spiritual descendants of Amalek, which do not get eradicated on their own. Vavloi, they also Baal Shem Nifla, and also not by that wonderful Baal Shem, Sheyatzim Tochein V'Alach Aleim, who went from among us to them, Gareshu Chos B'Davar Piv, to banish the spirits with the word of his mouth. I don't know where that is in the New Testament, but obviously not that. The Baal Shem Nifla, he refers either, probably sarcastically, but to, I assume refers to the founder of Christianity. I'm not sure I understand, but I believe so. as bitter as the truth may be, rak he mara de alma. It's again playing words. Mara with a hey, how bitter it is. Mara with an alf, the master. Kaki Moradam is the master of the world. In other words, truth might be bitter, but we have to perceive truth. Rak to be self tikun. And only this truth will bring us to fixing. It's the terrible truth. That our Torah did not shy away. Torah said, Noam Hashem, even the Torah of that which is pleasant and peaceful. Milach Riza, it did not shy away from Nasibas Nebene Amah in the ears of the people of its nation. V'yal Torah, eradicate evil. Omnam Lefidar, it's a passage we've done in Gimel, Vav, and other places. Omnam Lefidar Chei Yadus Higia Din Yisodi Zeh L'Bchinas Halacha Me'Marichin. But according to the pathways of Judaism throughout the ages, till the 1920s, this basic halacha came out to be in a certain aspect, halacha which we can't paskin l'maisa. Tzadikei Yisrael amitim chayam lishtamid mimenu. Amazing statement. The true righteous people in Am Yisrael have required to remove themselves from this halacha and not fulfill it. Halacha vein morin kain. It's the Rechias Amalek is halacha which we don't paskin l'maisa. And if you're a tzaddik, you'll refrain from this. For lo levidekim and not bring it to fulfillment. There are those who have to fulfill it against their will. Pa'am achas bedor, one time a generation. Miyare adus mizdazas, immediately Judaism trembles. And cast aspersions on the truth of their righteousness. A person who runs to fulfill the mitzvah mechias Amalek is under suspicion. It's not me saying it, it's Rabbi Avrohom Eliyahu. A person who lusts for the mitzvah mechias Amalek is certainly a suspicious person. Sanhedrin kills once every 70 years. It's called a murderous Sanhedrin. Kilui Kotzim, Mikarmosha and Nushius, this is a reference to Gemara Bava Metzia, the 7th parak, and I got it to there where it talks about Rabbi Shimon eradicating the thorns from the vineyard of the world by becoming a policeman and going out and pursuing the elimination of criminals. And Chazal call him on that. Chazal separate themselves from Elazar Shimon on that account, and despite his great righteousness. So removing the thorns from the vineyard of humanity, most of the time it's done by the owner of the vineyard himself, not supposed to be done by other people, even though it seems like the right thing to do, even though it seems like the mitzvah to do. Judaism, which is powerful in its wisdom, goes in securely in its spiritual way. Modia begalui is a principion shabadavar, and reveals the principle of the matter publicly as emishain lovchin, the truth which cannot be undermined. Ubiyarta, you have to eradicate. Imin ima he bezeh lavan liliban. Sorry, as shel tmimei chaloshus. If it's because it brings those it's pleasant disrespect to the hearts of those who are innocent in their weakness. Or breaks them without mercy. It brings them to a terrible suspicion. Won't bring them. They call the Jews who want their pound of flesh Shylock. Which never was and never will be. And I'm sorry, not call it Shylock. If they do that or don't. If they produce a blood libel on the Jewish people every Erev Pesach or not, Achas. It's one same to the Jewish people. Makes no difference. Shlach orcha v'amitcha yanchuni. Send your light and your truth; they will guide me. Mispelsi adus hanitzchis, eternal Judaism praise. Send your light and your truth. Va'el kol asher yanchuni elecha. Any wherever you take me, I will go. Mibli hasogacho, without retreating backwards. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe, as a medrash in Bereshis Rabbi Achas, Ksoiv, write it down. Somebody wants to make a mistake, let him make a mistake. I believe that's about Nasa Adam Tzameikin Musainu. We're afraid that people are going to make mistakes and think that there is other partners of Kadosh Baruch Hu in Ma'aseh Bereshis. So Avrohom Eliyahu says a fascinating thing. We have to acknowledge the V'yata Mikabecha is a reality. L'Oschez Kol Neshama is a principle. And Timchez Zecha Molek is the truth. But we're supposed to try as much as possible not to be the ones to fulfill it. It's an amazing finish. It really is in the spirit of what we say about Achas, about Ben Sora More, in one Sanhedrin. Drosh v'kabel schar. It's there to learn. There are principles that have to be learned from here. It's not there to be put into effect. Self except with rarity, and then even under suspicion. The in the final analysis, there must be in the world the echo of the sound of the true pronouncement. Hamanabei Modia, which prophesies and the Modia Ra Shabadam, and notifies the wickedness in man. Kizman Biro Melavo, that it's time for his eradication will come. Who is the appropriate person to make this pronouncement? Klumotom terroristim b'nei Europa? Is it the European terrorists? Terrorists then do not have the same connotation as today, which is much even more wicked and evil, but this didn't mean wicked and evil back then too. Sherikshas ritzcham rabah, that their sense of their emotional involvement in murder is greater. Makarosam v'avas atzmam from their cognition, I guess, from their intellect. V'sha'avas atzmam gedolah me'amitam, and the love of themselves is greater than their pursuit of truth. Klumasam idealistim is that those idealists shemechir chayadam pachos etzlam, by where those idealists to whom the life of a human being is less mimechir shitreim mamon than the value of their dollar bills. So obviously about the terrorists of the early 19th century, 20th century, anarchists, nihilists, all various different ists who used murder, assassination, and annihilation as tools of the trade. No. Machriz, they're not the people to make these pronouncements. The other people are more suitable to make this pronouncement. Every year, b'yom HaShabbos Lifnei Purim, on Shabbos Lifnei Purim, good Jews get together. Mamim, believers, sons of believers. Rachem Melech, the merciful children, merciful. Anvei Lev, the humble of heart, Muchei Ruach, and low of spirit. She'enim yicholim l'fukah b'knav zvuv shalakir, who are not capable of hurting the wing of a fly on the wall. And they can't hear unnatural cries. That they are ready to fall and faint when they see a drop of human blood. They're loving the people who are willing to be insulted, and not insult. They're rugged the people willing to be killed, and not kill. Who do their divine service out of love, and are accept the tortures. The Jews of this coast go into the houses of their prayer. They make their ears like horns. To listen to the voice of the Baal Koreh. So a little play words here also. Kol Korei, right, which is like a pronouncement. Kol HaKorei, the voice of the person doing the laning. Ukayim b'kavana slave and fulfill with the kavana of the heart. Mitzvah sasei min haTorah, the mitzvah say d'oraisa. Least course the Rash was done to remember the wickedness within human beings. Ulachlit shu tzorich limachos, into decide it has to be eradicated. Uvetargum loshon, and to translate zuas not translate literally, but translate into modern terms. Zuas sefas revolutionei holam. This is a gathering of world revolutionaries. Hamotzia resolutia, which is producing a resolution. Radical, it's a radical resolution. Elvar terror norvayom, to perform a horrific terrorist act. So Parshas Zohar is about, right? Radical revolutionists pronouncing an act of terror to be performed. What do they do if they read this resolution? One cry the other in a great cry of anger and violence. Echarbi, where is my sword? Echarbi, where is my sword? Cherem nokemes, my sword of revenge. Charbi litnu, give me my sword. Lo Rabbi say, no. I say v'zu b'Shabbos yichol. This gathering comes out on Shabbos. V'cherev ba'osa yom muktzeh hu machmas mius, and the sword on Shabbos is muktzeh on account of repulsion. Asur b'til those are now to move it and now to carry it or move it. Shkein omru chachamav shel am noam v'azam, because thus said the sages of the pleasant and angry nation. Amarachin ketzeh, the merciful and stormy nation. Lo yitzei adam achar b'Shabbos. A person can't go out with a sword on Shabbos. Lo tachshitu lo, where he passes it's machlekes, but said not to be an adornment for him. Elo gnayu lo, but something which is derogatory for him. Shehu batul asilo, because eventually it's going to be nullified. Moshe says, "Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilimadu al milchama." Nations should not bear sword against each other and not learn any more warfare. Avrohom makes his points. I think we're going to stop here for today. And the next paragraph, next section, the last section, is going to backtrack it a bit. Not completely, but a bit. The point is that from Avrohom's perspective, the fact that he Parshas Zohar on Shabbos and not on a weekday is a prelude to a mass rush to weaponry, indicates to us that yes, we need to know that we have to deal with evil when necessary and eradicate when necessary, but it has to be, the incidents have to be few and far between, and not something we want to do. And we'd rather go back after Parshas Zohar to a nice kiddush or lunch, as opposed to actually going out and fulfilling what it actually says in the parsha. And again, as I said in the last section, he's going to modify this somewhat, kind of like he went from here to there. It's going to come back in the middle a bit, but this is what's critical to our day and age to know. That we know there has to be eradication of evil, but extraordinary moderation, and almost to the point, I was going to use the words in the next section, of Joshua Kabbalah Schar. Stop here for today.